Life is so good, especially when you can see multiple trajectories of everything you're wanting fulfilling itself without you having to do anything to make those things happen. That's how life is unfolding. What are you doing to make the sun rise? What are you doing to ensure there's enough oxygen for everybody? What are you doing to have food grow out of the ground or have it delivered to your grocery store? All of these things are happening on your behalf without you having to do anything to make those things happen. And the same thing is true with your desires. When you learn how to harness the fundamental spiritual principles underlying how physical reality works. Welcome to another episode of Worthiness Wednesday. It's such a great day. I hope you're experiencing your day as a great day, because it is, even if you might not think so. Everything in your life is unfolding perfectly. And it's interesting that I just said that, because in this episode I want to follow up on a client I talked about in a previous episode and fill in what's been happening with her relative to her machine. But for background, in the previous episode I talked about this new client who had this machine at work that wasn't working for her. It was a CD duplication machine. And she was frustrated because the company was in the middle of layoffs, cutting costs. And as a result of cutting costs, they weren't willing to repair the machine. And so my client had to do the work that the duplicator could do in a small amount of time. She had to do that work by hand. And as a result of that, it was taking her like 2, 3, sometimes 5 times more effort to duplicate these discs than the machine could do. And so she was frustrated. When she first came to our sessions, the first thing I talked with her about was soothing her negative momentum, soothing her thoughts and beliefs that were creating the reality in which the machine stayed broken. That's what I talked about in the previous episode. And in the previous episode, as a result of doing what I just said I suggested she do, she manifested for herself a one-on-one in her office with the CEO, where the CEO basically gave her a blank check for whatever she wanted to fix that machine. And what she wanted was to fix that machine. So this video is about what happened after that. So after the CEO left, my client was overjoyed. She kind of couldn't believe that this had happened. She's a new client. She's not confident. She doesn't have a basket of evidence proving to her that her thoughts create her reality. Nevertheless, her thoughts created this reality where the CEO came in and asked her for whatever she wanted, offered her whatever she wanted. So when the CEO left, my client was approached by her manager, and her manager was somewhat upset because, of course, the CEO got on his case about getting that machine fixed. And so, as my client described it, her manager and another manager under her manager started fighting, pointing fingers at each other as being the one responsible for why this machine wasn't fixed. In other words, her desire for having a fixed machine began to uncover all of the reasons why the machine hadn't been fixed. People were pointing fingers. No one was taking responsibility for getting the machine fixed. And so that's why this machine had ended up in a kind of maintenance purgatory. As these people started pointing fingers at each other and arguments ensued, my client believed this was a bogus belief, but consistent with people who are in corporate America. My client believed that the machine was not going to get fixed because no one was taking ownership of the problem. This stretched over 2.5 weeks or so. And I told her, you need to stay positive about this. This is unfolding perfectly. The fact that people are yelling at each other and no one's taking responsibility is part of the unfolding. She did so. She stayed positive until last week. Last week, she came to her session and she was frustrated that the machine still hadn't been fixed. And she said to herself, I have to accept that there are some things I can't control, and I'm just going to have to do my job the best I can. I'm not going to try to change things that I know I can't. I let the client talk for a little while. I wanted to jump in and cut her off and tell her, no, you have complete control over everything in your life, and you can create a reality in which this machine is fixed. But instead, I let her talk a little longer. And then when she was done, I said to her, hold the vision of what you want and watch as the universe takes hold of your vision and delivers it to you. And so in our session last week, she told me a story of how she was approached by someone in maintenance in the IT department about the machine. The person didn't offer to fix the machine, and as a result, my client was frustrated. So she moved the machine to the edge of her desk closer to the door, and her manager came by and saw the machine had been moved, and then offered to my client to get the box for the machine. And my client said yes. So he went and got the box for the machine and brought it into the office. And my client put the machine in the box. Then, this is so good, the CEO called my client and told her he was personally taking responsibility for getting the machine fixed. He was questioning her over the phone before he made that declaration. He was questioning her whether or not their customers, the people for whom she was producing these CDs, were upset. And she said, yes, they are upset because they're not getting the service that they were getting before. So because of that, he personally took on getting the machine fixed and said that it would be done by this Friday. Now, here's the reason why I'm sharing this story is to fulfill the story, to give you an update on what had happened since the last video I made about this. But also, I wanted to lay out the pattern or the process through which manifestations occur. When you first have a desire, typically you're not focused on the desire. You're focused on the contrast that creates the desire. In this case, a machine that's been broken for some time. That's the unwanted stage of manifestation. When you recognize what you don't want, you immediately know, at least at the broader perspective level, what you do want. And that which you do want is immediately taken by all that is, and the cooperative components are then assembled to realize, in order for you to realize the fulfillment of that desire, of what you want. As those cooperative components are being assembled, more and more energy is needed, more and more focus, more and more momentum is needed in order to move that assembly of cooperative components forward. And what that looks like in physical reality is, in this case, the managers bickering with each other, the managers pointing fingers at each other. This was the further forward contrast necessary for my client to choose to lean more in the direction of what she wants instead of leaning in the direction of what she doesn't want. In other words, it was kind of the universe like the universe saying to my client, do you really want your manifestation? Or do you want to maintain what you have, which is a broken machine? And when my client said, I must accept that there are some things I can't control, she was leaning in this direction, which is why after she stopped talking, I encouraged her, no, everything in your physical reality is subject to your control. Lean in the direction of what you want and watch what happens. So the trajectory of a manifestation on your way to the fulfillment of what you want always includes greater contrast. That greater contrast is both encouraging you to focus your pure positive energy even more toward what you're wanting, and it's showing you where you are relative to what you're wanting and what you're not wanting. And so on your way to the fulfillment of your desire, it might look like your desire is not being fulfilled. And if you look at the apparent evidence that shows that your desire is not being fulfilled, you will get the lack of fulfillment of your desire. It's not a test, but it's kind of like that. This trajectory or this path of manifestation is consistent across all manifestations. Again, you begin with recognizing what you don't want. Then you lean into what you do want. Then the cooperative components start being assembled. In the assembly of the cooperative components, you're offered in physical reality more contrast, which causes, if you know what you're doing, causes you to double down on having the fulfillment of your desire. And if you do that and move through that contrast, eventually the desire will be fulfilled. Just like with this client where the CEO says, hey, I'm going to take this on and get this done by Friday. So good. Life is so good, especially when you can see multiple trajectories of everything you're wanting fulfilling itself without you having to do anything to make those things happen. That's how life is unfolding. What are you doing to make the sun rise? What are you doing to ensure there's enough oxygen for everybody? What are you doing to have food grow out of the ground or have it delivered to your grocery store? All of these things are happening on your behalf without you having to do anything to make those things happen. And the same thing is true with your desires. When you learn how to harness the fundamental spiritual principles underlying how physical reality works. My clients are learning that, and so is this particular client with her duplicating machine. You can too. There are lots of people on the planet who are offering the same thing I'm offering. Find one that resonates with you. If you think I resonate with you, feel free to reach out. One last thing I want to offer. There is now a community section of the Positively Focused YouTube channel. I'm calling it my living room. It's an opportunity for you to follow my personal journey using the Positively Focused practice on the leading edge of what it means to be a human, defining what it means, defining the leading edge of what it means to be a human being. In the community section of this channel, I'm going to be sharing my personal experiences with meditation, dream work, and the spiritual principles that I have collected into the Positively Focused framework. So in all the other playlists of this channel, I'm talking about my client experiences, for example, or the convergence between AI and spirituality. But in the community, I'm going to be sharing examples from my own personal journey, which demonstrate the effectiveness of the Positively Focused practice. If you want access to that community, all you have to do is be a subscriber for more than a week. So if you want to follow my personal journey, subscribe to the channel. It's not about growing a great big audience so that I can monetize the channel. This is about distinguishing my personal journey from the journey of my clients, and separating my personal journey from the other things that I talk about on this YouTube channel. I wanted to give viewers an opportunity to have access to my personal journey, and that's what the community is about. So, if you are a subscriber for more than a week, you can already access the community. You can see that I offer lots of personal information there, and you can interact with me in the comments section of the community, ask me questions, or share your own experiences of what you're doing in your own spiritual journey. So if you are a subscriber, I'll see you in the community. If you're not, I'll see you in the next video.